For more great content, make sure you follow 717 Sports Media on all your podcast listening platforms. Also follow us on social media, on Twitter at 717_sports, Facebook and Instagram at 717 Sports Media. We're also checking on our website daily for your daily news and sports videos at 717sportsmedia.com.
All right, we are back with our guest, Jeff Nadu. Before we get to that, our producer over there, Coach Way, go ahead, got a little advertisement.
Yeah, let's give a shout out to our sponsor, Right Way Home Care. Remember, at Right Way Home Care, they are committed to providing high quality and affordable home care services to their clients based in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. Their goal is to assist them in leading dignified and independent lives in the comfort and safety of their own homes. Their individual needs are carefully assessed, understood, and met through selective assignment of qualified, trustworthy, and compassionate personnel. So make sure you check out Right Way Home Care for all your home care needs. Back to you.
All right, thank you so much, Coach Way. All right, I'm very happy to have Jeff Nadu on here. He's our guest on the podcast. He's a Penn Manor grad. I feel weird over here. I'm the only person not a Penn Manor grad. So we got two back-to-back Penn Manor grads. How you doing today?
I'm doing well, guys. Thank you for having me. I'm pretty happy to be here, and I don't think I've ever done a podcast based in this town. I always do podcasts like way far away, and it's cool to be around some people that kind of were in my purview as far as high school and things like that. And you went to Penn Manor as well.
Right,
so.
right, man.
Perfect.
I mean, it's we're anybody from the 717. We want to represent. That's what our site's about.
I love that.
Yeah, and we're trying to get the name out there. And you've done great things on your own, and we're going to talk about all that. We're happy to have you.
Anything I can do to help, I'll do it.
Yeah.
We appreciate it, man.
That's great. So let's talk about. So you're a Penn Manor grad, and you were telling us about the student section. Can we start with a little story time? I want to hear about the student section.
This is where your legend began.
And this is where the legend began. I guess that you were suspended for 2 years by PIAA. Let's
So,
hear this.
yeah. So when I was in high school, 2007, we had a very good basketball team. We went all the way to. You were just talking about District 3. We went to the final that year. We went to states. We had a great season, and we developed. Me and my group of friends, we had a gigantic student section. I mean, very big. And this actually started, I want to say, in your brother's year.
Okay.
There was a group of kids that we were kind of the next ones up after them.
Okay.
And we just started getting real rowdy. And we started doing some crazy stuff. We were always looking to, we wanted, when you came to our gym, we wanted it to be horrific for you. And we got to points where we were looking up people on MySpace, finding their girlfriends' names, and we got to points where, we just started out with chants, and we got like real deep with it at certain points. But fast forward to the end of the year, I was telling Brandon we had our District 3 final against Harrisburg.
Yeah.
We got blown out, but we still had states, and we actually won our first game in states we were at CV. We beat this team called Liberty up in Williamsport area.
Okay.
And then we knew our last game. We knew we weren't going to beat Simon Gratz, which was the next team. They're out of Philadelphia.
Yeah,
Rasheed Wallace went there. Like all these. I mean, it's a huge basketball school. And it was at Coatesville. And it was right towards the end of the year. And we didn't want the season to end. We had a great time with it. And so we're at the game. We're getting blown out. It's like 78-45 with like 5 minutes to go. And we started some real crazy chants. We were just going kind of crazy. And we were kicked out eventually, four of my friends and me. And we're multicultural, all different kind of people. And I do remember some of the kids were saying certain things they probably shouldn't have said. And we ended up going outside, and we weren't allowed in the building. We could stay outside and wait for our friends to come out. So we're standing there, and this guy comes up to us. And he goes, "Hey, I'm a reporter with the Philadelphia Inquirer. What happened in there?" And I was like, "Oh, well, we were saying some things. We got kicked out." And that was that. We went home. Next morning, I'm in school. I'm in biology class. I get a call from the principal. Now, I had been in the principal's office a lot. She knew me. I know her to this day. She was a great principal. Mindish.
Mindish, yes.
Yeah. She was terrific. Good woman. Taught me a lot. She calls me down, and I knew what it was about. I knew it had something to do with the game because she had reprimanded me many times.
Yeah.
She would make me like not go to certain games, and so I go in there, and she goes, "What's this?" And she shows me the Inquirer, the sports section. And I said, she's like, did you read this? I said, no, I don't read. I didn't read it. Like, how would I read that? I don't get that delivered. And she goes, well, you're in it. I said, what do you mean I'm in it? She goes, well, they wrote a really bad article about you guys. What was up with the racial slurs? I said,
Whoa.
I said, hold on. I said, first of all, there were no racial slurs. Someone might have said something, but these were, some of them were black, Puerto Rican kids. Like, they said stuff. It is what it is. And she basically told me, you need to apologize. You need to write a letter to the PIAA and to that school and apologize for everything. And ultimately, they banned me, the PIAA, from events.
Was this your senior year?
But the season was over, but the next 2 years.
Oh, so you were banned the next
But that
2 years.
didn't change. I still went to games anyway.
I was gonna say, I mean, there's
I was-
stories after that.
Was your face on a milk carton too?
I'm not sure, but I went to JP to a game,
Yeah.
and they wouldn't let me in.
Wow.
Now, I did go to a Solanco game, because I was just out of high school, right?
Right.
And we still had friends on the team. We
Yeah.
still had friends in the
Were you
student
wearing
section.
like fake mustaches?
No,
I'm just
no.
joking.
I went in completely like I did. And one of the schools that I beefed with really hard, I was like public enemy number 1 down there. Everyone knew me down there. Solanco.
Yeah.
They hated me. Like the student section hated me.
Were you trolling them pretty hard?
Yeah. So I went to, I knew, some of my friends were saying to me, you got to go to that game. So I went down there that night. And they let me in. Nobody said nothing. And I sat in just like the normal seats. I didn't sit in no nothing. And they had gotten wind that I was there. And they had started a chant with my name. And this was in like the middle of the third quarter. And there were some rumblings around like, who is the guy? Who is the guy? And they started the chant. And I stood up and flicked them all off. The whole section.
So you're saying the band's still there, like 10 years later?
Yeah. It was...
Oh, that's crazy.
No, but this was intended. This was like a year
It
after.
was a year after.
Or whatever.
But they
it was.
knew who he was. Like you were
Oh,
like
yeah.
a famous fan.
They knew who I was for
You
sure.
were like a super fan.
And they actually, I remember a cop came up to me and said to me like, "We're gonna walk out with you to your car." I said, "You don't have to walk out. I mean, I'm fine. They ain't gonna do nothing." And they harassed me the whole way to my car. They threw stuff at me.
They threw stuff at your car?
Oh,
Wow.
yeah. They were really pissed off. Now it's funny because a lot of those kids, I ended up like years later we'd go to the Brickyard and I would see them and we would have conversations. But yeah, it was we did a lot of stuff I wasn't proud of looking back. And you know, no student section I don't think is like that anymore.
Well, I was gonna
but-
say, well, first of all, are you allowed in a game now? Are you still?
Yeah, I
are you
could.
still on the band list?
I've went to games. You know, it's been a few years since I've been to any L games, but
Okay.
you know, because I was telling him like, I know when I was young, like 10, 12 years old, I occasionally, my grandfather, he was from Cabbage Hill in Lancaster City. He would take me to see McCaskey play.
Oh, those are the heydays.
Yeah, and I remember.
Coach and I know all about that.
Yeah, I remember. Like the greatest team I ever saw was Dustin, Perry,
Jerry
Johnson, Akeem, and McCaskey under Steve Powell. And yeah, those were special years. But you talking about this kid from LS? I heard about him actually. Someone sent me something like,
Burton?
you got to see this kid. And I said,
He's incredible.
yeah. So yeah, I'm happy to see some kids doing well. But yeah, we had some wild times in high school.
It's funny you bring that up because I've been telling these guys, I've covered about 30 games this year. It gives me something to do, you know. If I
Yeah.
don't have my kids, I love going to games.
Cool.
But the student sections, even like the last night's game with LS, like they only do the certain chants, and I was always wondering like all year, like why can they only do certain chants? I'll see if like they're yelling back and forth with the other crowd. The athletic director will come by and be like, "Sit down, sit down."
It's the
go on
Jeff
down."
Nadu
That's
rule.
the Jeff Nadu
It was-
rule. That
There
makes
you
all
go.
sense.
And it's funny because if you went to Penn Manor today, they would probably still remember. I mean, like
Oh, I
Philip
guarantee you.
Gale, he was my principal. He's still there.
Yeah, yes, yeah.
You know, and like the thing is, and I'm not. I mean, this happened a long. This was 12, 15 years ago. I know kids like I saw it that would spit in the water jugs of the other team. Like,
Oh, man.
Like I saw that. Like
You
it was.
did that. or you
I didn't do it. I saw kids do it.
Okay.
Really?
And I don't think I should bring up the story I was telling him. I don't know how crazy I should get on this, but there was one particular incident. I don't know if you guys want to hear it. It was involving a chant.
Let's hear it.
Yeah.
Okay, so-
yeah.
So there was when we were seniors, there was a story that came out of Warwick and Lidditz about an individual that was dating a girl 2 years younger than him
Okay.
in that school district, and he, I mean, it's pretty messed up. He murdered her parents and kidnapped her.
Okay.
Okay.
I didn't know that.
Right. It's really sad. And basically, you don't want to hear this story. I'm telling you, but I'll tell you it.
Might as well.
During a
You got this
game,
far.
we were killing Warwick. We were up like 30, and that year they had beat us in football. So they start the "What about football" chant.
Oh yeah, let's play football.
And before the game, I had a kid come up to me, the same kid that did the water jug thing, and he said to me, "If they say that," he said, "let's bring up the kid." The kid's name was Ludwig,
Yeah.
David Ludwig. I always remember his name. I think he got life, and they started it, and the kid goes, "What about Ludwig?" And
Whoa!
and we
That's bad.
and we did it loud,
Yeah.
real loud.
What was
So
their
what
response?
happened?
Were
Did
they?
anybody like shut you guys down?
That whole side of the stadium was dead quiet.
And this is at Warwick's gym. That's a
No,
big-
this was here. This was at our gym.
Okay.
But you
But
guys
they
went
had-
to the Warwick.
Oh yeah, and they had a lot of visiting fans.
Oh yeah.
And I remember leaving that night. That was the first time that year that I actually felt bad about what we did, because after the game, some of our kids doubled down and like I got into it with some of the people outside. There were parents coming up to us that were just saying, they were like, we get what you're doing, but that was completely out of line. And that was another time I got reprimanded for what we did. But we had some kids that took it too far. But
You live and you learn, right?
yeah, that was what, 2007. Those are
Yeah.
different times, and we thought it was funny, but looking back, it was. Somebody died. 2 people died actually.
Right.
So
Yeah. Right.
it was
It's a creative chance. So.
yeah, it wasn't great, but yeah, they switched it all up because of us. I'm sure of that.
Oh, I believe it.
Yeah, I bet. Yeah, they don't. They have like zero tolerance. For
No,
stuff
and
now.
I was at a few Penn Manor games over the years, and I saw it. They'll have a constable like right there,
Yeah.
where it doesn't get too bad. We egged on fights between players. It was rough.
No, I mean, so it's the Jeff Nadu rule. That's why
Yeah.
the PIAA's
Well, and,
crack it down.
and during all this, you would get to know other fan bases, and they all, like I said with Solanco, like they knew who I was,
Yeah.
because, it was a wild time. I miss those days. They were.
Did you
fun.
ever do like this in college or pro? Did you ever go any games and
No.
rile up some fans
No, I didn't. You know what's funny? It's funny you asked that. I actually, I was at a Sixers game right before the pandemic, and I was sitting behind the Sixer bench,
Okay.
and I get into it with, you know who Udonis Haslam is?
Yeah,
Yes,
he's a long-time
yeah.
Heat player.
I got
He's
into
still
it.
there, isn't he?
Yeah, I get into it with him about, I was calling him out, talking to him, and he kept responding to what I was saying. But, I like to get my money's worth when I go, have a good time,
Yeah.
needle people a little bit, but
You're going March 10th, aren't you?
see, I only will go, and I've said before, I'll pay whatever dollar amount I have to pay
Yeah.
to sit right behind the Nets bench. But see, a certain person won't be there, I guarantee it. So
Yeah. Talking
He's
about
not gonna
Simmons,
play.
just so you know.
Yeah, I know.
No,
he's not gonna play.
for me, it would only be about him, because I loathe him, I
Yeah.
hate him.
I'm with
So,
you. I'm with you all the way.
Yeah, so for me,
So apologize.
and I would have absolutely no issue getting kicked out at all. I would welcome it,
Well,
whatever.
Well, I tell you, you brought back a memory. When I was in college, I went to a Browns-Eagles game.
Yeah.
This is right when the Browns came back, an expansion team, and it was the Eagles had Donovan McNabb, and I was pretty hammered, to be honest with you. And he was coming in at halftime, and I spit on Donovan McNabb.
You spit on McNabb?
Yeah, that was really a
Grace-
low moment.
What's
Yeah,
the?
that's
Wow.
You
Yeah.
let this guy on the
What a
podcast?
vile thing, man.
21 years old, I was drunk. I don't
you
know.
were a kid.
Yeah, I was a kid.
Oh my
So-
god.
But this actually started for me.
So I felt bad about that.
I actually started this really young, though. I remember when I was a kid, my uncle had season tickets to the Sixers,
Okay.
and they were really good seats. They were directly behind the media, where the media sits,
Okay.
first row, center court.
Yeah.
My dad used to take me, and I was like 12, 13, and I was, I remember I had a heated argument with a ref one time,
Wow.
and he told me to shut up multiple times.
That Javi? Steve Javi?
No, it was this guy, Derek Stafford. He's still a ref to this day. He was a young ref back then. This was like Tim Donaghy was still a ref at this point.
Oh wow.
This was a long.
Oh wow.
This
Live
is when
gambling
yeah,
going
this
on
was,
there.
What year was this? This was 2001, right before the finals. It was like 99. I was even young. I might have been 10 or 11. And I got my start early. But I've always been like this with sports. I was raised to, yell at the TV. And then it turned into the gambling stuff. And I'm sure we'll get into that. But yeah, I'm not proud of some of the stuff we did in high school. I feel bad looking back.
Okay, so let's get into. So tell us a little bit about how'd you get into podcasting, and is this like what you always want to do because you're a sports guy, like as a young kid?
Well, in high school, one of the reasons a lot of people knew me in high school was I did the morning announcements for 2 years.
Oh, okay.
I was the only person that did it. That was the one class I did super well in, because I always loved being in front of cameras and talking to people and just, speaking. And I started doing that, and that was the first glimpse I had of being on something. And then I never knew what I wanted to do in life. I knew I didn't want to work for my dad my whole life. He owns a construction company, and around back then there weren't podcasts. 2008, 2009, there was no podcast.
Yeah,
like,
sports
Right.
radio.
Yeah, that's about all it was. And that's actually how I got my start. I used to be a regular caller on WIP.
Oh, that's
before-
right.
Oh, really?
My brother
Yeah.
told me that
Many
Yeah,
years
you-
ago, and I got into it a few times with like Billy King, who used to be the CEO
GM?
of the Sixers.
Yeah.
The GM, yeah.
Is he still on? He's still on there, isn't he? Or-
Billy used to be. I think he has a front office job now.
Okay. Oh, you're right. You're right.
But
Yeah.
there was a particularly funny moment where there were just certain things, and I kind of got to start there, and I get really into it, and I remember telling my mom and dad at the time, because I still lived at home at this point. I said, I want to do something with sports, and they laughed. Like, what are you gonna do? You haven't been to college, nothing. And I moved around jobs and stuff. I worked at a bank. I sold cell phones. I did all sorts of stuff. And I just started gambling. I'd always gambled. I had gambled since middle school. And that was always a thing for me. And I think it was around 2010, my dad said, why don't you do a podcast, like on YouTube or something? And I found this like goofy little program called Spreaker. And I started doing podcasts, and one thing led to another. I started gambling heavily, and I remember I contacted this company offshore. It was a gambling company, and they did content about sports betting, just something like this kind of almost.
Yeah.
Okay.
And they did videos every week on college football. And I reached out to them, and I said, I'll pay you to do this. Like, I just want to do something. I want to get my feet in the door
Yeah.
somewhere. And they wouldn't respond initially, and then they finally allowed it, and I did 1 or 2 a week. Then I eventually got my own show there. I started making money on it. I started growing my profile on
Wow.
Twitter and
Mhm.
stuff like that. And before I knew it, I was making more money doing what I did as opposed to working. And it's 2016. I left the 9-to-5 world, and just been one thing after another, and just went to where I am now.
And when did Barstool? Was that part of Barstool? I know I've read your story with Barstool, the back and forth, but when did that start up?
Barstool, I'd been close with an individual that works there, Big Cat.
Yeah.
This was back 2017, 2018.
Okay.
I used to give him college basketball picks. Him and I were cool on DM. We would talk. He followed me many years ago. And there was a day where this was before gambling got legalized,
Right.
like in the States and stuff.
So where were you gambling? Offshore?
Yeah. I was gambling. I used a website called Five Dimes. I had Bodog many years ago, all these different locals and stuff like that. And he reached out to me one day and said, hey, I don't know if we can fit you in here now. He said, but eventually we're going to need gambling people. Do you want to talk to Dave about some of your ideas, Dave Portner? And I said, yeah, hell yeah, sure. So he contacted me a week or so later, and he said, hey, can you come up to New York? I'd like to meet you. He said, Dan told me you're pretty funny and you're good at gambling. I said, yeah, well, I'll go up. So I went up, and I remember I went up to the 3rd floor that they were on, and I got off the elevator, and I looked directly at him. This was when they were at their old office, for the new one they're
Okay.
at now. And his office was directly next to the elevator. And the lady walks me over, and she goes, this is your guy. And Dave goes, you're the guy? I said, yeah. He goes, holy shit. He said, you look like a gambler. And,
You had that look about you, I guess.
yeah, I had my hair spiked. I don't have it done now, but I had my hair spiked, and I had a black tracksuit on, and I said, what do you mean? He goes, you just look like I'd see you at a casino. You probably know everything about gambling, this and that. We had a good conversation, and he told me kind of the same thing. We're not ready to bring people in just yet. He said, but they were waiting for a big investment and from Penn and stuff. And it ultimately worked out. And they actually offered me a contract back in 2019.
Yeah.
And I declined because at the time I was making a lot of money. And I could live around here. I could do what I wanted to do. And it just didn't work for me at that point. And I said I declined him. And he kind of took it weird. And we didn't talk for like 6 months. And then in early 2020, right before the COVID stuff, he reached out to me and said, hey, you want to come up and do some radio stuff with us? Maybe give this a try. We can work something out.
Yeah.
And at that point, we worked it out. I was supposed to start March of 2020 during the NCAA tournament. And the week before, COVID happened.
Right.
Shut everything down.
Shut the world down.
And he told me, there's nothing we can do until football. We'll see where we are in 6 months. And September. And I waited. I actually told you guys I got in shape. I lost a ton of weight. And he contacted me September 15th of 2020. I accepted a job with them. And I was still able to live here, which was cool. I worked remotely. I did some cool stuff with them. I had a podcast about basketball.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a great time for me. But ultimately, it stopped working because I had a real big issue with a certain person that works there, and it just got real toxic. But it was a great experience. I still talk to those guys today.
Yeah, I was gonna say it seems like you have a good relationship with Portnoy
and I ended up doing Rough and Rowdy, which is cool. And Dave's always been super fair to me. He always gave me an opportunity. I've actually talked to them recently about the pod that I have. I think it needs to be on a bigger network, and I would love to sell it to them and get it to something higher. But yeah, they've always given me a good opportunity. They were the one company that I felt like I fit with, just because if I'm not working on my own and I'm going to work for somebody, I want it to be them, because I was always able to be myself. As I've talked about this whole time, I'm a little bit off the wall with some of the things I do.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. So, I don't think I could ever work. In fact, I don't think, an ESPN would ever hire me, to be honest. So, I just don't fit in places like that. So, I like the company because they were allowed me to do what I wanted. And I can create whatever content I wanted.
So, there's an opportunity you could go back.
You never know.
Yeah.
I mean, we left the door open. I left on good terms. And like I said, we did Rough and Rowdy, which was very connected to them. And yeah, I mean, I would give them a discount on this show if they wanted it. And I think they would put it in a great spot. But, I'm always working. I always have things going on besides that. So, yeah, they were great. They did a good job to me.
Okay.
I mean, with gambling so mainstream now, I mean, it's going to grow and grow and grow. It's probably like a great opportunity for you to continue to grow.
Yeah, it is. And as you said, everybody gambles now.
Everybody.
So
I love it.
I mean, ESPN has it.
Yeah. And the thing is, I've always been I have my own audience. So for me, I've always been able to market to those folks. And I have a company I work with now. They pay me every day to do a show. It's really simple. It's an hour long. I have these different things I'm doing each day.
What network?
So it's with a company. It's an offshore company. It's called BetUS. They're a sports book. They have this.
So I could find it and watch it.
Oh yeah.
I gotta find this, man. I need some
basketball,
picks.
Right? Yeah. We built it up really good. I'll get you the link. And,
I'm start watching every day.
Yeah, we have some fun with it, and that's what I do. I find these different little content opportunities to do. And what's crazy is, I think you've arrived somewhere when you can take what you do and monetize it. And that's what I've been able to do with everything I have. So I strictly do content. That's my job. I try to make whatever I do, whether it's a podcast, whether it's a show, whatever I'm doing, how can I monetize this? Like the sit down we have, the Mob podcast. It's totally different from gambling.
Right.
But I'm making money with it now. I'm able to advertise and do stuff like that. So you just got to start somewhere and keep going with it.
That's why you're here to help us.
That's yeah.
But the funny thing is, I was you at one point.
Right.
I remember when I first started on Spreaker, I had an iPad, a first generation iPad. I bought this goofy little mic from Radio Shack when they were still around.
Okay.
I plugged it in my headphone jack, and I sat at a table just like that one, and I sat the iPad there, and I did a show, and no one listened to it. I think the first episode had 4 listeners. It was me, my mother, my father, and my brother. I'm serious. And I practiced, and I figured out how to do what I do. And I reached out to people like me now and said, can you come on? And
that's
built it.
That's great.
That's awesome,
yeah, that's great. With the Brandon and I did the Big Ten football podcast. I just asked some people in the athletic to come on. We had some college football writers. It was just fun to have some big time hitters like that come on.
All you can do.
Somebody like you coming on, it's great.
All you can do is ask, and
Yeah.
whether it's women, whether it's a show guest, I'll never be bashful. All you can say is no, and
Yeah.
if you say no,
Right.
that's fine.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you a quick story real quick about this, what we're talking about. I know a kid today, okay, that got hired by Barstool today. I know him personally. He's a good friend of mine. This is what he started. He started a Twitter account that literally every day tweets out clips from Barstool shows. He built it super high on Twitter, got the attention of Barstool, and they hired him for it. Kid just worked. He did hard. Nobody followed him at the beginning.
Wow.
It took like a year.
And now how many does he have? How many followers?
Maybe, I think like 10 G's maybe.
Wow.
One year.
And it turned into a job. So you just got to keep doing stuff, man.
Yeah.
Eventually, you start with athletic people, then you do me, and then you have whoever. It's slowly but surely it'll work.
Okay, so let's get into your gambling. So I'm curious, like, is there certain sports? I know you're a big basketball junkie. I've been following you a lot of like basketball, doing college basketball. Do you bet all sports? Like, what are your top 3 or 4 sports you bet that?
I don't bet all sports. I bet most of my repertoire is college football, college basketball. I don't bet hockey. I'm not a hockey guy.
NFL?
Yeah, I bet NFL. I wouldn't say I'm in love with it. I think it's very very difficult.
Yeah, NFL's hard. I found.
But I like baseball. Baseball in the summer is fun. I don't know if we'll have it this year, unfortunately.
Yeah.
One sport I'm actually really big into is soccer. I bet a lot of
Wow.
Italian soccer, stuff like that. But I just look for an advantage. I don't care what it is. If I have an edge, I'm in. And I was telling you, I think whether you bet in college or pro, there's different things you look at. So I've learned a lot of tips and tricks over the years, and yeah, it's become a passion of mine. So
Okay. So how do you determine? You just do your research on teams and
Yeah.
just dig into it.
a lot of my life is in an office in my house, and I just sit there, and a lot of the time it's preseason. I'm sitting there and I'm reading into every team. There are 358 Division I college basketball teams. I could probably tell you something about every one of them. So I think it's important to know the teams I'm betting on, and it's really simple though. Like when you're watching a basketball game, if I have a team that runs strictly zone defenses,
Yeah.
if a team can't shoot, it's probably not going to be a good matchup for them.
Right.
It's pretty simple. So, being able to break down schematics and knowing teams and knowing coaches and knowing players, it takes a long time, but you begin to understand how it works and how you can. And a lot of the thing is, people just enjoy that I can talk about any team, and that's value in itself. So I've been able to carve out my niche with that kind of stuff.
That was going to be my next question, because I know you know college basketball, and I get into March Madness. I'm a Penn State football fan. I always joke with Patrick that Penn State basketball is my off season because they haven't been good in forever.
Yeah.
Do you see under this new coach with Shrewsbury that they can turn the corner at all?
I think the problem that they have is, there are schools that really just kind of say to themselves, we're going to be a basketball school, we're going to be a football school. You look at Kansas, they're a prime example. Their football program's a joke.
Yeah.
They have one of the best basketball programs in the country. Certain teams just put expectation in that. Will Penn State ever be a good team? I think it would take a big.
Because they're good in everything else except for basketball.
It would. I think they need a better hire. They need a splash hire.
Okay.
Now I don't know if Shrewsbury. He needs to recruit
Yeah.
in Philly area, that kind of stuff. The problem is Philly kids want to go play in, I don't know, California, or
Duke.
Miami. Right.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Right. So I remember a couple of years ago, Lonnie Walker out of Reading.
There you go.
Yeah.
Reading alum over there.
Yeah, Lonnie, I remember came to Millersville, not Millersville, McCaskey. I went and watched him. I played JP a couple of years ago. And, I remember I knew his uncle. Weirdly enough, his uncle was a guy, Big Star. Many years ago, Big Star, he, you know Big Star?
Content guy.
Yeah. Big Star got his start doing rap DVDs many years ago. Too Raw for the Streets, it was called. And he eventually turned it into a recruiting website. And his uncle, that was his uncle. And I remember Star was telling me that, he said Lonnie don't want to go to Villanova or he wants to go to the Sun, play down the Florida. These kids want to go play at bigger schools or tropical atmospheres. So for a place like Penn State, it's just super hard.
Well, because I told him,
Gotcha.
because I grew up in Ohio, and Ohio State basketball, obviously it's not as big as football, but Ohio State basketball, like you open up every local paper, there's stories. People care about
Yeah.
Ohio State basketball. Like I grew up with Jimmy Jackson,
Yep.
and Ohio State was like a good basketball program. I come here and I open the paper,
There's
there's nothing on Penn State basketball. I'm like, what is
And the
this?
thing is, you got to realize as well, Penn State's in the middle of
Right.
that area,
Right.
which got huge because of people like LeBron James in that
Yeah.
Ohio area. And then you have Philly, where why would I go to Penn State when I can go play at Villanova or
Right.
Temple or St. Joe,
St.
whatever.
Joe's.
So I think Penn State's just in a rough spot from a basketball standpoint. And it is such a long lineage of football that it's just,
Yeah.
I don't know. Will it ever be back? I don't know. That's a great question. I don't know.
Yeah, I was too. I'll admit it because you do those shows on Twitter.
Spaces.
Yeah, and I always come on there. I get too afraid to ask about Penn State basketball because I know a lot of
No,
people
it's
are
a great
asking all
question.
over.
Will they make the tournament? Yeah, I think. Will they be a power like Michigan or someone like that? I don't think. I think football is where it is with them, and I think for Penn State people that's what they want.
Penn State's good in football? Oh,
Yeah, he's
okay.
not. He's,
I
Well,
got to
I
rip
mean-
on him a little bit.
there you go.
I mean, the problem that Penn State football has is in my entire lifetime, and this is the truth. Can you name outside of maybe Trace McSorley one really great quarterback they've had?
And even Kerry Collins is the
But what was that?
94.
94.
Yeah,
I was 5 years old.
No, I know. Yeah,
But I look back to when I was a kid. My grandpa, the one that would take me to JP games, he loved Penn State.
Yeah.
Loved them. We sat there every Saturday and watched Curtis Enos and Larry Johnson and
Bobby
LeVar
Ingram.
Arrington. But I think back to the quarterbacks, like Michael Robinson, Anthony Morelli, like just
really,
like
forgot
just
all about
guys
him.
that like really like it's amazing over the years they've never even recently like some of these guys just aren't good enough. Why
Yeah.
is it so hard to find?
But college football has changed so much because like Ohio State, when my senior year at Ohio State was 02 when they won a national championship against Miami. Craig Krenzel was Ohio State's leading quarterback, and he threw for like 14 touchdowns because the game was so different. Ohio State ran
Right.
with defense and ran the ball, but now Ohio State's adjusted. And if you look at with Ryan Day, like they've recruited a quarterback so well in the last
But like, how
8
does
to
a
10
school
years.
like that recruit quarterback so well, and they get a Justin Fields or whoever? Penn State has never had a quarterback. Like
No, they have no.
and
You're
it's like
That's a great point.
You can't hit on
I never
one.
thought about it.
yeah. Collins is the last one, and even like in terms of NFL success, which was he had a couple of Pro Bowl years, but that's '94. I mean, McSorley made.
That's like 30 years.
Oh yeah, yeah. Believe me, you're preaching to the choir about
Yeah,
the quarterback
he's
situation. I asked you about Penn State basketball, not
Yeah.
about Penn State.
No,
basketball.
but
He's
it's-
right. You make a good point.
But it's crazy though because like you look at some of the kids they put in like receiver wise.
Oh yeah,
So whether
across
it was
the board.
Yeah, so whether
Linebacker.
it was linebacker, running back.
Running back.
I mean, it's,
yeah.
I mean, no, you're preaching to the
No, but
choir.
how long
Penn
ago
State.
was that?
But like if you look at
94.
if you look at Alabama, in their run, Alabama when they started winning championships, they were more like the traditional game manager quarterback. But now they're not anymore. The Tuas, the Mac Jones,
Right, and
the
that's
Bryce Youngs.
and
Bryce
even-
Young's gonna be the first pick next year in the draft, probably.
Right, but even like like Greg McElroy, like people like that.
Yeah.
Like I think the worst quarterback I've seen at Alabama over the last 10 years was a kid Blake Sims,
Oh yeah.
who
What year
like
was
Yes.
was still
Yeah.
pretty good.
Right.
Yeah, he was a converted receiver,
Yeah. So it's like
and that was the first year that they converted the spread offense and they played him.
it's just
Yep.
I've always been fascinated by it with Penn State. It's like I don't know
No.
how.
Well, and to be
Pretty
fair,
sure
Penn
acquired.
State's in the harder section. You got to go against Ohio
Yeah.
State, who's just went to another level recruiting with
East,
Urban, and you got to still deal with Michigan, who they're up now.
Michigan
But
State and all
Michigan
that
State had some good years, so Penn State's definitely in the harder division of the Big Ten as well.
Yeah, it'd be nice to play, Big Ten West. As opposed to
Yeah,
Big Ten
seriously.
East, for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah. So, all right. Before I get to you, I want to get to your podcast. Can you? I know this is 717. Can I ask you? What could you give me any thoughts on Ohio State basketball? Since you said you know so much about.
Yeah, so Ohio State basketball I've always liked. I like Holtman a lot. I think
He's a
he's a
really
good
good coach,
coach. I love Liddell. I think he's terrific.
Yeah, he's awesome.
He's one of my favorite players. I was sad to see Dwayne Washington go.
Yeah.
It would have been nice. I think if they had him this year, the guard play is a problem to me.
He knows his stuff, man.
He does.
That's kind of the issue for me with them. But because guard play's so big because you can have a great big man, but like if you can't get the ball to him,
Yeah.
it doesn't really matter.
No, it doesn't.
You know, and I think Ohio State is a team that's kind of flown under the radar. I think they'll be a tough out. They always are. But Dwayne Washington was a killer.
I think if they had Dwayne Washington, they could be a Final Four team, but he went pro, and then
He-
they didn't have a replacement for him.
Yeah,
so
I
you're right.
remember he killed Michigan last year. A couple
Yeah,
times.
he
But
did.
then they lose to Oral Roberts, and it was just like. But I knew how good Oral Roberts was because I knew Max Asmus. He was a terrific player.
Oh, he was incredible. I didn't know how. I
he's-
figured it out in the tournament.
He's still around. He's killing it still. So, yeah, it's you both basketball programs. Obviously, I'd rather have Ohio State, but both I think have improvements to make.
Yeah.
So you must love the tournament then.
Yeah, I do. I mean, I think it's
Is it your
kind of
favorite
a-
sporting event of the year since you're a big basketball junkie?
Yeah, I actually love the conference tournaments though as well. I love everything about basketball. The worst thing about it is that it ends, you know.
Yeah.
But then I know I could just look forward to next year. But yeah, I enjoy it. I enjoy just the matchups and seeing the brackets, and I even like the NIT and stuff like that. Like if it's basketball, I'm in on it. So
And
So how much NBA you watch? You watch a lot of NBA or not?
I do watch a lot of NBA. I bet the NBA a lot different than college though. NBA to me is all about the number. The player doesn't matter to me. I've always been a big underdog bettor. I think if you bet underdogs in the NBA, you can kill it. Like truly.
Okay.
If you just sit there and you pick off double-digit underdogs and stuff like that, you can make money. And I learned this because I used to go to the casino. When I lived in Philadelphia, I used to go to the casino, and I would see at the book, I would see these kids every night betting these parlays, and every team's a favorite. And I just see how the NBA works. It's truly all about the number. Players don't matter. It's all about the number. But yeah, I watch the NBA. I enjoy the NBA.
Cool. All right, so let's get into your new podcast. I love it. I thought it was awesome. I just think that, you know, and I'm sure you can comment on this, like the more mob content you can get, I think the more that we love it. You know, in this country, I think movies,
Yeah.
TV shows, everything with the mob. So the sit down, because it's like something that I love the idea too, the name, the sit down. I mean, that's perfect, right? You know,
Yeah.
is it always been like something you always wanted to do, a mob podcast, or
Well,
just came to you?
It actually was at Barstool. I actually had an idea to work with another colleague there, and I knew he was a big mob. I've always been into the mob stuff. I enjoy the movies, and I love reading, so I read a lot of books and stuff. And I actually took the idea to him, but I just couldn't get around to do it. I had no time, and when I left there last February, I knew it. Then once basketball ended, I said, I'm going to do this. I'm going to start out. I'm going to pick one guy. We're just going to sit here and talk about him. We're going to tell a story.
And every week.
Yeah.
Every week is a different. It's
Yeah.
And what I like about it is you get under the radar guys that
Yeah.
we don't know about,
That's-
and it's fascinating to hear their stories.
And that's what we wanted to do. We knew we would talk about the Al Capones, the John Gottis, but we wanted to tell stories about people that were very influential to this country's history. People that were involved in some really crazy things that people don't know about. And we sit there and we tell a compelling story every day, or every week about someone different. And we've done so many different people, and we have so many still to do. And I've learned, as Patrick said, I mean, it is a popular niche, man.
Mhm.
Like I was blown away at the success the show had just through word of mouth. We've get so many good comments about it, and you know, we're starting to do bigger interviews and talk to people. And it's funny, I knew I arrived, and I probably shouldn't bring this up, but I will. I'm not going to say who it was, but we did a show 2 months or so ago about an individual, and I have a colleague of mine in the space. We've started receiving emails from certain people that are in that life.
Wow!
So it's gotten that.
Yeah.
Wow!
Yeah.
Incredible!
And I'm not going to say who, but you know, and you know, there are certain people that aren't happy with it. Like they don't
Really?
for sure.
Wow!
You know, I'm not going to say where, but in certain locations I've not been allowed in certain places. They won't let me in.
What's the old saying in one of the Sopranos episodes? You never expose the.
Yeah, which is true. We do try to talk though about history.
Yeah.
We don't necessarily talk about, because the mob's still around 100%, but we've had fun with it. But I plan to go deeper into it. Like I have ideas to do other shows. I'm working on something else it's going to take a lot of approval. I'm going to go into America's prisons and interview people. That's my next show idea.
Wow.
Okay.
That's fascinating.
I have some correspondence with some people that are doing life sentences that were mobsters that I'm trying to speak to, and people are fascinated by it. I remember when I would write blogs on it at Barstool, they would always be super popular. People love mob stuff, and
Oh, you're absolutely right. I mean, between shows, podcasts, movies, and I saw the other day you had on Twitter. I think Patrick was going to ask you this too. You're a Wire guy over The Sopranos, right?
Yeah.
All right, good. Just had to
I
be
think-
sure.
So The Wire over The Sopranos. It's all time show.
So let me say, I did for a long time. I always will say I think The Wire is required television for anyone in this country.
100%.
Because I think it tells the true story of what our cities are really like that they don't tell you about.
Right.
And if you know anything about the show, that's what the creator will tell you. But I actually started watching a show about a year ago called Gomorrah.
Yeah, what's that? I saw you talking about that. What is that show?
It's a mob show. It's from Italy. It's about the mob in Italy.
I've heard of this. What network is it on?
It's HBO Max.
Oh, I gotta go check it out now.
Let
That's
me
on
tell
my
you,
list.
if you and I urge you, it's in subtitles. But I
Okay.
tell you, you have to watch it in subtitles. It's a masterpiece. So
That was your
incredible.
number one.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I watched. I was late to The Wire. I just watched it for the first time a year ago. Absolutely loved it. It is probably my top.
It's very vivid.
Probably my top 3 favorite shows are probably Sopranos, Wire, and then I love Homeland. Have you ever gotten Homeland?
I've never watched it. but
Homeland. Homeland's incredible. The first season is just edge of your seat. Anyways, but yeah, I love The Wire, and I'm actually rewatching it now a second time.
You gotta watch them again.
Yeah, I just love rewatching them a second time because it's like
You learn so much.
you learn so much, and so I'm rewatching that the second time, and I love that.
Yeah, I'm a big TV guy. I enjoy watching new shows, and I'm not one of these people where I try to watch. I don't like fiction. I'm not into fiction.
Me either. I'm the same way as you. Drama.
Yeah, I want real, vivid stuff. And one of the things about Gomorrah that I think will draw you in.
I gotta
is
check
that
it out.
Shows in our country always try to everything's tried to be funny. Everything.
Yeah.
They've got to insert this goofy humor in. And that's one of the things with Sopranos I felt it was kind of lame. It was too forced sometimes. Gomorrah, and this is crazy, in the entire show, 5 seasons, I can count on one hand the amount of smiles I saw on the show.
It's just straight serious.
It's just straight, vivid. And I've researched a lot about Italy, about the mafia in Italy, and they make the mafia here look like a Boy Scout troop.
Wow.
Like they do some really bad things, and it's a very vivid show. It's very graphic. I mean, I would urge you if you watch it.
Yeah, I'm gonna check it out.
You have to understand you're gonna see stuff that.
So it makes Tony Soprano look like a den master. huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, 100. You'll see stuff that they would not show on TV here.
Wow.
Okay.
That's
So,
good.
It's very good, and yeah, I feel like I should get paid by them at this point to talk about it because I literally
Yes.
I've
There it
definitely made more people watch that show.
No, it's an amazing show, and he's right. You gotta watch it.
All right, it's on my list.
This guy's the truth. He knew who Big Star is and Gomorrah.
Well,
Shout out to him.
Yeah.
You kind of look like a mobster in that sweatsuit.
I was
you got
thinking
on
that when
there,
you
man.
walked in.
Maybe I am.
What does it say? You're either a hustler or you're being hustled?
Yes.
What was his name? Billy the Boo? The mobster? What was that? What's his name?
I'm trying to think.
Sammy the Boo.
Sammy
Oh.
the Bull.
Sammy the Bull. Yeah.
Well, let's not talk about
Yeah, you
him.
don't want to be that guy.
Yeah, we
He
don't want
might
to
get
get in
another.
trouble.
He might get another email or something. You know?
No, he's a very Sammy the Bull is he's very talked about. Do you know who Sammy the Bull is?
Yeah, yeah.
You know what he did, and
Yeah, all the murders and everything. Yeah.
but then he ratted on everybody.
you ready?
Yeah,
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 ready?
yeah,
Everybody.
yeah,
Right,
yeah.
right, exactly.
No, so funny story about Sammy. I can't exactly know it's him, but I'm pretty I've heard him call me names before. He doesn't like me. I know that.
So, oh wow, really?
Oh, we did a show on him. He wasn't happy about it. We got some.
on your podcast.
yeah, we
Yeah,
got
oh,
some,
yeah. It's good. You gotta check it out.
we got some 1-star reviews, and every 1-star review had his name mentioned in it. You'll never be Sammy. So we knew it was him.
That's
Like
nuts.
sending people after us.
That
and
is nuts.
no, I
His daughter's even nutter.
yes, Karen. She's an interesting woman. Yeah, she's an interesting woman. And yeah, we expect we'll have more run-ins. You know, I want to speak to them. Like I will go interview Sammy right now, but we'll see. Yeah, we definitely had.
You're
some-
diving deep, man.
Oh yeah, Look, I have no problem with that. I know that I'm going to be put in some precarious situations with it, so and we're okay with that.
You got Marco fired up. That's.
I mean, we look at it as like we're investigative journalists. Like I want, and we've put stories out about people that we've found in our research.
Makes me want to just follow him with a boom mic.
Yeah, which it would be funny if we did that, but like my whole thing with Sammy, I would be worried that I would say something to him that he would physically assault me, probably. And that's because I'm going to ask him questions that no one's going to ask him.
Yeah.
Why did you take the money you made for 20 years? You killed 20 people. And why did you just cooperate against everybody?
Yeah.
That's the easy way out, man. Why'd you do that? So it would be. Yeah.
Hey, mob people, you can follow 717 Sports.
Give us a follow. We got great
Give
articles.
us a follow, please.
I mean, could you imagine though he does that? That would be. I would
my
go
God.
viral.
Yes.
Yeah,
And I would do it. I don't
pay-
care. You
yeah.
want to hit me? Go ahead.
You probably
I
get
won't
paid a
press
lot of
charges. I
money.
promise.
Yeah.
Wow.
Probably
So,
get-
we'll see where it goes, but it's
It's great. I could tell you guys that you do a lot of research because like the stuff you're saying is like it's intimate. Like
And that's the
you have
thing.
intimate knowledge about it. It's like
The
you're not
thing-
just drive-by guy here.
the thing that makes it tough is there are like certain people like Sammy. There's a lot known about him already, so we have to go and find stuff. Hopefully that we can find in court cases or different indictments or books. We go pretty deep into
Sports
it.
and mob. Here you go. This
Yeah.
is my guy.
Yeah.
Mix it up.
Hands all up in
You should give him
Yeah.
a 717 shirt when he goes to interview Sammy the Bull.
Oh
There you
yeah,
go.
I would love to wear one.
Promote that.
No, but like even I'll tell you there's an episode before, and I'm sure you'll listen to something, but we did an episode on a guy. He was a drug dealer. Kabani Savage was his name, and I urge you, if you listen to this show, go listen to that episode. He was a really awful human being, like really, and it was not far. He was from Philadelphia. He he was a vile person, and we feel it important to tell people about these people. These are not good people. The people we're talking about, they're bad, criminal, awful people.
Okay.
And we want to bring awareness to who they are, tell the real stories, and we don't let Hollywood. We're going to tell you the real truth.
Yeah.
Why do you think people like the mob so much? Like what is like
Yeah,
Sopranos so popular in a way that people like Tony, even though he is a bad person in
Yeah.
the show, like Tony Soprano. Like there's just something about it. I don't know quite sure why, but I've always been drawn to it since I've been probably like 9 or 10.
Yeah, I'm fascinated by that as well. I've always been the same way. I would sit outside of my parents' bedroom and watch The Sopranos when I was 9, 10 years old when it came out. I don't know. I think it's the fact that it's, when you're talking about high-level crime, let's say drug dealers or drug cartels and stuff, we don't see those people, right? A mobster could live in a city right next to us. These are just regular people.
Right.
And I think there's just something about it that always get headlines. People see it. It's whether it's the movies or whatever, and it's something that we don't live. We don't live that life, and it's interesting to us, and it's they've taken over society in certain levels. So I don't know. We've always wondered that. But you know what? How it ends for all of them? It always ends one or two ways. You either die or you go to jail.
Yeah.
And that's the truth. And you know what's interesting about
So
it?
that's what happened to Tony Soprano. He did die because we never found the end
Well,
of
I'll
it.
answer that in 1 second. But have you seen The Irishman?
Oh, yeah.
I did, yes, I did.
That's what truly motivated me to do the sit down, that movie.
Oh, okay.
And in the last 5 minutes of the movie, I think it's so brilliant. And a lot of people didn't like the film because it's not real true.
It's a little dry at times.
It is. But at the end, Frank Sheeran realizes that at one point he was one of the more powerful people.
Yeah.
He was around Jimmy Hoffa. He was around all these powerful people. But he realizes in the end, by he's old and alone, he's ostracized his entire family. His daughter won't do anything with him. He's going to die alone. He realizes that. And he thinks to himself, after everything, all the things I did, nobody knows who I am. I did all this for what? And I think back and I say, well, all these mobsters, that's the same way they go. They all die alone, and they ostracize their entire life because of money and greed and power. And I've just been fascinated by that. And, they all end the same way. And
That's a good point.
It's you're either going to be in a cell. I mean, I've talked to people in my correspondence. There are guys that have been locked up since before I was born. They've been in jail for mob crimes. They'll never get out, and that's the life they chose. And I want to know what is about that code that you will live your rest of your life in a cell half the size of this room for that.
No,
I want to know what that is.
That's a great point.
That's
a great point.
wow.
So let's get. What's your favorite mob movie?
Casino.
Casino. I love Casino. I haven't seen it in years.
I'm more into the, I would say the most vividly true film is Casino. Most of that film is very realistic.
What about Goodfellas? You watch that?
I
know you watched it. But
Of course, sure.
Yeah.
I like Goodfellas. Some of it is it's interesting. I wish they would have did more on the Robert De Niro character.
Yeah.
Because in real life, he was actually a very violent, powerful guy. They centered it more around a guy, Henry Hill, who
ratted him out.
Yeah, who was in the end, he really wasn't as powerful as they let on. And
wasn't a made guy.
Most of the storyline in the film was actually Jimmy Burke's life, and they just made it Henry's life. But Donnie Brasco's terrific.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Which is actually a real event. I'm actually, and this is a quick plug, I'm interviewing a guy that was undercover in the mob for a couple of years on my show coming up. And he had a life similar to Donnie Brasco, but A Bronx Tale is a terrific mob film.
That's a good one too.
That is a great flick.
Donnie Brasco, I love that. Like he got so into it that he couldn't even go back to his regular life.
He had considered at one point, and he has a show now, Joe Pistone, the real guy. He has a podcast, and he talks about how, they proposed him for membership into the mob, and he had to kill somebody, and that's when they pulled the plug on it because it just got way too invested, and he. It's interesting because the guys in that film, the guys that brought him into that life, most of them were killed because of that.
Yeah.
They
right.
Which we saw in the film, but yeah, Casino's great. I'm very
Yeah, Casino is an awesome movie. And the gambling angle.
True.
Because at the end he became just a handicapper.
And Frank Rosenthal, he the film kind of is gambling related, but it's also mob related, and I just always enjoyed it.
Yeah. So what were you going to say? What happened to Tony Soprano? You
got
a theory on that.
Do you want the theory of what I truly think happened, or my mob mind what really happened?
Let's go with both.
Let's go the mob.
I don't
mind theory.
I don't think there's any way, as a watcher, you could say that he was killed. It would just, I think, bastardize the whole show.
Right.
Like the whole show is very realistic. You're actually going to tell me and try to show me that Tony Soprano, as he sat with his wife and kids in a diner that was extremely well lit, you're going to tell me that some random individual killed him in front of everybody? It's just not realistic.
I've always thought the same thing. I was like, there's no way.
It's actually only happened once. Joey Gallo, he was killed in Umberto's Clam House. He was a big-time mob guy. He was killed in front of his family. That was the only time it happened as far as I know. But no, I think Tony, what ultimately happened was he probably went to jail because they actually alluded to one of his people.
He had indictments, right?
Yeah,
against
Carlo testified.
Was a rat, or whatever the term is.
Now, there's funny because we did an episode on our pod about when the movie came out. We did a look back at the show, and I had a girl. She was a super fan of the show, and I had her come on, and we were kicking out ideas, and I actually had an idea that, you know what I think happens? I think ultimately, and this is going to be crazy to say, but I think AJ eventually takes over. I really believe that.
AJ Soprano?
Really?
Yeah, because
spoiled little punk?
Yeah, he didn't know what he was doing.
But again, if you actually remember in the show, was he spoiled? Yes. But if you actually look back, he actually was quite kind of nuts. Like,
he tried to kill himself.
He also tried to kill Corrado at the.
When he stuck in the.
He dropped his knife.
And in that, I think it truly could be the best scene in the show, when Tony goes and gets him out of jail.
Yeah.
And they're at the car, and he goes, "You're just gonna let him get away with this?"
Yeah.
And he goes, "This is my life, not yours." And he kind of just alludes to his father that I can do this, and we're not gonna let him get away with this. And I don't think it's that crazy, because if you know anything about Italian mafia stuff, like in Italy, it doesn't matter who your son is. If you're a boss, your son takes over. That's how it works. And I don't think it's that far-fetched. And I think it also illustrates what the mob has become, that someone like him is in control of the family. Because I liken it to John Gotti. John Gotti was an old school guy. And then his son takes over, and it was totally different.
Right.
So if he can do it,
good point.
It's kind of a weird, crazy thing, but
what'd you think of the movie? I was
I
disappointed.
heard it was just okay.
I was
I
very
think a lot of
disappointed.
people were.
I was very disappointed. I don't know. I walked away like frustrated.
It was the wrong. Let me tell you what.
Why didn't they focus more on Tony? I was so angry at that.
That's what I would
Angry
have
is
done.
okay, sorry, go ahead.
No, and I think you're right. I think everyone would have the same thought. What I would have did if I were Chase was they should have did a film kind of right where the film ended, where Tony's like 16 and he realizes, okay, this is my life now. From then till the start of the show, that would have been the film.
Yeah, good point.
Like pre that, like I didn't care that much about Dickie Moltisanti.
Yeah, like who cares about Dickie? He's such a small character.
Yeah, it just.
I know it's Chris's dad, but like you don't really talk about Mickey. They do in the show, and then later Chris goes and kills the police officer.
Right, but again, like it wasn't that big a thing, and it's sad because David Chase said recently about I think like a week ago, because I don't know if you guys saw that Super Bowl ad with AJ.
Yeah,
and
I love that.
Neto. People brought it up and said, "Oh, is this a sign that there's gonna be another film?" Because a lot of people thought there'd be another film after the one they just put out, and he shot it all down. He said, "We're not doing that."
Let me ask if God rest his soul, James Gandolfini, if he's still alive now, is the movie better, or is there another show?
I think, but this is the problem with Sopranos, and this is why The Wire I thought was always better. They drew The Sopranos out too long.
That's true.
You have to
That's a
stop
good
a
point.
show. It's important. Like I know people don't want it to end, but when you take things too long, like Sopranos season 6 was way too long. There were way too many storylines. Like
the
I didn't
Vito storyline.
Vito,
That
the
was
Cleaver thing.
yeah.
Like all that stuff just went way too long. And I heard David Simon, who created The Wire, talk about that. I had, like, Obama loved The Wire.
Mm-hmm.
He literally went to David Chase and asked him to do another season. That's how much they, that's how
Yeah,
much they loved
yeah,
the show.
I remember reading that.
Eric Holder was the Attorney General. He
Yeah.
said the same thing. He would look into certain things if he did another season. And David said, no, this has a beginning, a middle, and an end. And that part of my life is over. I can't, again, bastardize this show by making more of it. It's good the way it is, and that's that.
No, I agree. I think you nailed it with The Wire. Like The Wire ending is perfect.
Yeah,
Like, I think it's perfect, and like it does get you reaching for more. But that's what a show should do. So you can keep coming back watching.
And it allows you to think as the watcher of like I think all the time, like, wonder what McNulty's doing today.
Right,
Like, what is he doing
right.
now? Is he a private? Because nobody loved being a cop more than him.
Right.
Yeah,
Like that was his whole life, and he ended up breaking the law
right.
to be a cop. So it's like
Yeah,
I think it's cool to like think about it, but
yeah. Like there's that theory with shows I've been reading a lot about, like how they don't want to like end it by killing the characters. You want them to always live on in your memory. So you want to leave it like they're just doing whatever. What are they doing in their life? And I do think that's a better ending.
but that's the thing about the show Gomorrah. Have you seen the final season? Okay, so I won't.
You know the show, Marco?
Yeah, very well.
I won't say anything, but the one thing I loved about the ending of the show, because I've seen it all. I've seen.
How many seasons it got?
It's 5 seasons.
Oh, I gotta watch it.
And it's
And
done.
the 5th season just came out, and I finished it, and it put a bow on the entire show. And I gotta admit, I'm not kidding. This is a true story. I sobbed at the end of the show.
Wow.
I was so sad it was over. I adore the characters. I adore the actors. I think they're incredible. If I could interview them, they would be my number one interview.
Were you sad because it's over, or how like a
No,
certain
I was.
character
I knew.
died?
I knew how the show would end because
Okay.
it's the only way it could end. But I was just sad that it was over. Like I loved the show.
That's
Like
what
I was sick about it. But it ended the way it needed to end. And
Well,
you
see,
know.
it goes to I'm not even mic'd. It goes to the same thing you said about The Sopranos. Sometimes they gotta end,
yeah.
and I'm glad that you said like it's ending here. I mean, I'm starting episode 1 for season 5, but if it will go 6 or 7, it'll be the same thing. It's gonna be drawn out.
Yeah, it has to. You have to say goodbye to characters.
Yeah.
And they have to start something else. And look, those characters in that show will always be remembered for those roles. But you know the show, like it's like rooting for. These are people that are literally killing little children.
Yeah.
And stuff. And it's like, but you find yourself still somehow in this warped way, like rooting for them.
I know it's got
like,
it's so crazy.
Yeah, it's very warped, but
It's like I'm like the straightest person ever. Like I go to work and it's like we're like a lot of Americans, but then it's something about a mob and you're like, oh my god, they're awesome. I want it's like.
But again, that's that's the thing about shows, they have to end. Like Sons of Anarchy, I loved.
I love that. I just hate the getting back to the ending. That last season just killed me, and like the
Sons, you mean?
Yes, and when Jax just runs off in that truck,
but it was.
I never want to watch it again.
It was a hard way to end, but it was like people, like certain things in that, like certain women died in Jax's life. I'm not gonna say who, but if you watch the show, she. Or his mom.
Gemma.
Yeah.
Gemma.
But if you remember, what does Gemma say to him? You have to do this. This is who we are.
He had to.
And like that's the thing about these shows that makes them so good is they're so vivid. I don't want to say it. They're so vivid. Like,
no, you're right.
This is how it really is.
That going back
like,
to what we were talking about earlier, though. Not just with like how the people were gravitated and like with mob shows, but like look at Walter White with Breaking Bad.
Yeah.
Look at Jax Teller. He's this badass biker, and then he's also like murdered by the end of the season 7. And he's murdered like 60 people. Whatever,
How do you feel about Ray Donovan?
I've never seen it.
It's borderline mafia.
Okay, I'll watch it.
It's literally one man mafia.
Okay. I'll check it out.
He's got a couple brothers, but they're not like in the life. But it's really, if there was a couple more like brothers that were involved, then you can say yes, mafia. But it is really borderline mafia.
I'll have to check it out.
Check it out.
I have a couple.
I think
of
it's
shows
6 or 7 seasons.
Okay.
And they just came out with a movie,
I've heard
kind of
it's
like
cool.
they just did Sopranos.
Let me ask you real quick while we're on the Gomorrah thing. Have you seen the film?
No.
So there's
The movie?
Let me tell you this. So there's 5 seasons of Gomorrah.
Yeah.
After season 3, which I'm not gonna say who because it's you. A very important character.
Yeah,
dies,
I know who you're talking about. Yeah.
Between season 3 and season 4, HBO put out a movie about him, about his life growing up, and I watched it. And I didn't know that I was supposed to watch it after season 3 and this season 4. So you should watch it.
So I know what I'm watching tonight.
It's called The Immortal. And it's really good. It's just about him and growing up and how he became who he is. But yeah, I have to watch Ray Donovan. I've heard.
Yeah, definitely. You'll enjoy it.
Did you ever watch Dexter?
No.
Well, that's about a serial killer, but yeah.
Yeah.
But I like all that stuff. Like I'll tell you another show that this is super old school. I don't know if any of you guys have seen this, but it set the stage for all these shows. Oz.
Yes.
I loved Oz.
Oz, yes.
Very graphic show.
I haven't seen
Very
all
real,
of it, but
though.
I've seen some of them.
It goes back to what you were talking about. It's very real and authentic.
And it has a lot of characters.
I remember that show, yeah.
They have a lot of characters that were in Wire, Sopranos. And one of the main characters is in Law and Order. That guy, Christopher Maloney.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, he's a sociopathic.
Yeah, he's like this this gay guy that is like a sociopathic murderer.
Yeah.
And he gets into a relationship with that Beecher guy.
With Beecher.
Yeah.
Beecher was in those Wayne's World movies. That's where I remember him from. That's yeah.
So I love I hate fiction. I have no interest in Game of Thrones. Like I have no interest.
No, I'm with you 100%. Like I just got into so I don't know if you ever watched Yellowstone. I never got into Yellowstone.
I've heard, yeah.
But I just watched 1883, which is a prequel, and it was so good. It was set in the West, traveling out west, and it's like I'm a history guy, so I love history, and it just shows you how hard it is to travel out west, and they're killing people left and right because they're trying to survive. Bandits are out there, and then they're fighting with Native Americans, and it's just in the last episode somebody died, and I'm freaking Sunday night bawling my eyes out because the character died, and I'm like, oh my God, I'm crying. What is wrong with me? But I love the character so much. It was so moving, and I think TV is so unreal now. There's so many outlets and so many great places that you can find stuff.
Well, I'm gonna spoil some, but I'm not spoiling. If you haven't seen The Wire by now, I don't know what to tell you. But so when Omar,
right.
When he gets when that kid
When Kennard
kills him,
shoots him in that
the Korean
Gettymar or
grocery,
whatever.
I vividly remember being
That's how they're gonna do it.
like
That's
I
how
was
it's
like,
gonna be done.
wait a second, that's how you're gonna kill
This
him?
guy's 4'0", shoots after you got.
Yeah.
Hey, a funny story about The Wire. Like Pat said, he just watched it last year.
Yeah.
This guy calls me like, "Hey, you ever see this show, The Wire? This is great." I'm like, "Buddy, it's only 10 years old. What are you talking about?"
I absolutely loved it. I couldn't stop watching. I was staying up to 12 or 1 every night,
That's
still
how
waking
I
up at
was.
5 or 6 in the morning, go to work. I'm like, dude, this show's unreal. What was I doing all these years?
Do you have time for a quick Wire story?
Yeah, I love it. Go ahead.
All right, so when the last job I worked, like I told you, was at a bank. I worked at a Citizens Bank at Penn Square. It's not there anymore. Right next to the fountains. And we would get a lot of tourist traffic, right? Because it's Lancaster City, right in the middle. And one day I'm doing teller work, and I'm sitting there. It's super boring, and this guy comes in with this big beard, looked like Santa Claus. And we got to talking. He was from Delaware, and he was telling me how he was in town. He's an actor. He was doing a play at Fulton.
Okay.
Wow.
We started talking. He was like, I've been in some TV shows, movies. I said, oh, you've been on TV? I said, have you been in anything I've seen? And he's like, well, I was in this show called The Wire. And I'm looking at him, and I'm thinking, where have I seen this guy before?
What was he?
And I go, wait a second. You're the nail gun guy.
Oh wait.
The Snoop and the nail gun guy?
played
Was that the guy?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was burying all the
hardware
bodies
store
in the.
No, he was
Chris
the
Parlow?
No, he was the hardware store guy.
Oh, the hardware store,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
When he bought the gun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's like-
that was
he's-
like the first episode of season 4.
I've seen
right?
more. That's yeah.
What?
He go,
Become aficionado.
I'm a super fan, man. I love it.
and he goes, and she, remember the scene? She's like, this here is the Cadillac.
Yeah.
Remember?
Yeah.
And she
It's
tips
like a
him.
great scene.
It
And
is
I-
a great scene.
I said to him, you're the nail gun guy. He goes, yeah. He goes, that's me. I'm like, you do know that's like one of the most vivid scenes of the show.
Yeah.
Like, everyone knows that
Yeah,
scene.
yeah.
And he's like, yeah, I've never seen the show. Like, he never watched it.
What? He never watched it.
He said
What are
it was
you
like
doing?
he said it was like a 4-hour film thing, and that was it. Like, he never watched it.
I
What?
love it when she hands Snoop goes, oh yeah, here you go, and he's like, this is $800, and she
Yeah.
goes, no, you handled that bump like a mother.
Yeah. He goes, yeah, and she goes, keep that shit. And he walks out. It's just $800. Yeah.
That's a
But
great
yeah,
scene.
he told me, he's like, I
funny.
never seen the show. He's like, I'll probably have to watch it now though, because you told me that. But I said, yeah, it was.
Wow,
cool.
Yeah,
that's
it
an
was
incredible story.
Yeah, it was cool.
Okay, I gotta ask you about The Wire. A lot of people complain about season 2, but the docs, I think it's awesome.
It's one of my favorites.
I like
loved it.
just the differences.
Yeah.
And that's why I think the show is so good, because they had a different theme that kept it going. And like, as a public school teacher who's worked in urban schools,
You get it.
I love the school. But the doc one is probably my.
But you have to think about it. Season 2, I think, is the most important season of the show, because what we don't think about is the drug war is what the show is about.
Yeah.
And how it's affected us as a society.
Yeah.
And season 2 showed us how that it affected industry,
Right.
and
Good
how
point.
drugs need to come in a certain way,
Yeah.
and even that industry. And again, most of it were white people that it was affecting. And the drug trade affects every group, not just minority. It affects everybody.
They shouldn't have killed all those hookers, and they would have been fine.
Right. But I will
Yeah.
say, I think Frank Sabaka is one of my favorite characters.
Oh,
And by
really?
the way, I found out about him. You know, when he filmed that, Chris Bauer is his name, he was like 28 when he filmed that.
Really?
role.
He looks really old.
Yeah, I know.
That
He, like,
balding
bald head?
Yeah.
And the best scene in that show in season 2 is when Ziggy pops those Greek guys.
Yeah, because they rip
Yeah.
them off.
And Frank goes to see him in jail.
oh, it's
And
so
Ziggy walks
heartbreaking.
in and he goes, you know, I can pretend, but we're just not built the same way, you and I. And he's like, you're more like me than you know. And like, it's just a great scene. That series,
Yeah.
that season, I love. I loved all the
Oh,
characters.
yeah, like Frank Savaka, there's a lot of like tough guy. Like, reminds me of my stepdad.
Yeah,
Remind me
he
of
was
like
like a industry.
you know,
guy.
and like, yeah, he did some bad stuff, but his ultimate goal wasn't for him.
It was for his
it was
kids.
for his union and
Oh,
the
yeah.
workers.
And that's the thing, like what the drug war did was it's completely destroyed urban areas that
Right.
were once like these, like for instance, present day. Go to Kensington in Philadelphia. It's a terrible place.
Right.
But in the 60s and 70s, it was a
Thriving.
burgeoning factory
Right,
area.
right.
There were a lot of jobs. But we've left that industry's pulled out of our country
Right.
now.
Right.
And those neighborhoods have turned into just these areas bereft of anything good.
Right,
So
right.
that's what's so brilliant about the show. And it's a deeper thing than just these are drug dealers. Like it's way
Yeah.
deeper than that.
The script is just
Yeah.
awesome, and they just nail it.
You know
I
they're
think they
coming
nail
out
it.
with the same writers are coming out with a Baltimore show.
Really?
Yeah,
Yeah.
You were tweeting about that.
Yeah,
weren't
it's
you?
about so it's about a true story. Like 5 years ago, these 5 rogue Baltimore cops they created like this task force of their own where they were basically ripping off tons of people, drug dealers, and it was this elite unit that ended up. They all
Is
got
this a spoiler
indicted.
for your next podcast episode or no?
No, this is true. It's
Oh,
actually
right,
happened.
No, I'm saying.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
it could
Wow.
be. They were gangsters in their own.
That's
right.
awesome.
Wow. That's
But
really
yeah,
good.
it's TV's great, man. I pity
it-
anyone
it-
that doesn't have TV. And
Well,
watch it.
like there's just like you could go. Like I just got Peacock because I got Yellowstone. You get Peacock, you got HBO,
Yeah.
Showtime, Hulu, Netflix.
There's so many.
There's so many, and so like I don't read as much as I want, probably because I'm so tired from teaching. But like, there's something like going home and watching a show for an hour
Well,
or two that you love.
You said you watched The Wire till 12, 1 o'clock.
Yeah.
He'll tell you, Gomorrah I finished in 2 weeks.
Wow.
As soon as he said that, I told him I stay up till 3 or 4 o'clock watching it.
I found myself like, and this is gonna sound crazy, but it started to affect my life. Like I wasn't like doing things I needed to do. Like I was like, no, I'm not going out this weekend. I'm gonna watch like, I just wouldn't stop.
That's awesome.
And I remember when season 4 ended, we had to wait like a year.
Yeah.
And what sucks about Gomorrah is, it's a show from Italy, so it's on Sky Italia. It came out in like November, and I couldn't access it. And I'm trying to find ways to like get a VPN and watch it, and like
Hook, line, sinker.
and it was
Oh my God, they had you.
and it was tough because
I gotta
like,
check it out, man.
Yeah, it's
There's all 5 seasons are on HBO Max.
yeah,
All right.
yeah. Even the
good.
movie is the one.
You seem like, I mean, just with your podcast, with the sit down taking off, are you looking to possibly make a pivot altogether from college basketball and
Probably.
gambling?
Listen, I always love gambling. Like that's my bread and butter. Like I'll always be able to do something with it. But like one thing about gambling that people don't understand is when you have a following like I do, where people listen to what I say, it gets real stressful because when you don't do well,
Good point.
it's a results-based thing.
Yeah, so a
So,
couple
like-
guys I follow, I'm like, damn it, thanks for
Right.
that bet.
But I've been in situations where like in 2018 I had an incredible basketball season. I won like a ton of money for people, and I did it all for free. And the next year I started charging for my advice, and I did terrible the first 2 weeks. And I remember I had some real low points. Like it was the only time I ever considered like quitting altogether. And it's real stressful. And I've just noticed with the mob show, like you do the show and that's it. It's enjoyable. I
Yeah.
teach people something. But I'm actually working on something. I can't really talk about it too much, but I'm getting involved in something real big in the mob space that I'm going to be doing some shows that I think are going to take me to the highest level. And that I think eventually will pivot me away from, and I'll just do gambling for like in my personal life.
Make sure he gets a shirt before that
Yeah,
all
I
takes
will.
off.
Listen, I think it's cool to do a show with guys that are I live 5-10 minutes away, so
Yeah.
you know you got to just keep doing it, and I'd love to come back. Whatever.
Yeah.
Heck yeah,
do it.
man.
Is that a good point to wrap? We went way past our time.
Yeah, man, definitely.
It was definitely a great show.
Yeah, thank you so much for coming on. I appreciate it. I
Yeah,
love
it was
the.
fun.
We do have a gift for you though, since you're part of the family now.
Yeah.
So you're gonna give me a shirt?
Yeah.
Oh my man, I'm a rock the joint.
There you
There you
go.
go.
Man, I love that.
Yes, sir.
Our fearless leader, as somebody likes to say.
It's our fearless leader. That's our shirt.
That's
and,
what's up. No, I'm happy to come on. I love doing stuff like
Yeah.
that.
and we're happy to have you. And it's all about our message. 717. We tend to cover. Normally, obviously we're a sports site. We like to cover athletes from.
Are you still live or no?
Yeah.
Okay. I'll say it off the air. I don't have to bring it up.
So
Okay.
I wanted to stay on. Just go ahead and let everybody know how to reach you on social media,
Yeah,
YouTube, the podcast.
Most of the work I do is on Twitter at Jeff Nadu, JFFNADU. You can follow me, contact me, ask me whatever. And I have a show. It's called The Sit Down. You can find it wherever you get your podcasts. I'm on YouTube. I put out stuff on there. I'm really kind of indebted into that right now, and I'm throwing stuff out, I started YouTube for this show. I grabbed 5,000 subs in like 2 months, so I'm very happy with it. It's just rolling. It runs. So, yeah, catch me there, and I'm sure you'll like it. You can listen to whatever episode you want.
Awesome.
Cool, awesome. Thank you so much for coming on.
We
Yeah.
definitely
Thank you,
appreciate it.
Appreciate
Absolutely.
How do they reach the 717?
Hey, you can keep tuning in everything 717, social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Make sure you check out the website where you can see all our shows, read all our content, everything. 717 Sports rules the world. We already know it.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you all.
Thank you guys so much, and we'll be back next week with another episode.
For more great content, make sure you follow 7 Sports Media on all your podcast listening platforms. Also follow us on social media, on Twitter at 717_sports, Facebook and Instagram at 717 Sports Media. We're also checking on our website daily for your daily news and sports videos at 717sportsmedia.com.